around here and is a graduate of Sarasota High School and Florida International University in Miami. He founded Actors Warehouse in Gainesville, where he was executive and artistic director. Today, Stephen H. Butler is the new artistic director at the Players Center for Performing Arts right here in Sarasota. Stephen, welcome to Suncoast, people.
Thank you, Robert. It's a pleasure being here.
How does it feel to be back in Sarasota?
A tad bit surreal.
Yeah.
It is.
How so?
Well, you know what? I never really thought I'd be coming back home. I really didn't, you know. I left twice. The first time I left was in 1986.
Yeah.
Then I came back in 91.
Okay.
And now I'm back.
Again.
Yeah, again.
Like a boomerang.
Like a boomerang.
So what about that old saying, you can't go home?
It's not true.
It's not true.
You can always go home.
Does it feel like home here?
It does.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like home because, well, first of all, my family is still here.
Okay.
So that's good.
Yeah.
I've always maintained a connection with Sarasota. Of all the years that I've been away, I've always maintained because family was here, and I would come back 3-4 times out of the year, and with the with the emergence of social media and being able to get the news at the touch of a button nowadays, it's like I've been able to see what has been going on in Sarasota. So there's always been that connection, and even in the arts. And that was one of the things that I really appreciated about Sarasota was that, you know, and come to really appreciate even more when I was away, was the arts and how arts-centered this community is and how the community supports it and knows its importance.
What changes have you seen since you said 86 and then 91?
Well, first of all, the growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was a sleepy little, you know, to me, growing up, Sarasota was a sleepy little town.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after 5 o'clock, Main Street was dark.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who was hanging out on Main Street was hanging out at the pool halls, and that was only bad people hung out in pool halls back in the day. You know,
okay.
And that's how we grew up thinking. You
Sure.
know, but yeah, it's really been great to see the growth, the infrastructure growth, and the businesses and the arts organizations, and actually being able to see the change in the demographics.
How so? Tell me about the demographics that you think have changed.
I have seen the demographics have changed in seeing more people of color within the organization. I mean, the community moving in. Especially, this to me, this is what I remember seeing. I remember seeing, as far as our Latino community, these were mostly migrant workers. People, they were migratory workers, so they would come into the area, they do their work, and then they would move on. And we hardly ever saw them again until it was that time of the season again.
Right.
But then slowly but surely, families started setting roots in the area and started setting up their own communities, and which is beautiful. And that's something that I love seeing as well too. You know, so all the years that I spent down in Miami, you can imagine all the the different cultures and ethnicities that I was
sure.
had come in contact with and exposed to and experienced. So it's really good to see that in this area as well too. You know, so if I can drive through town and I can see these wonderful Peruvian and Ecuadorian restaurants and Mexican restaurants and so forth, and it's really good to see that.
And certainly the cultural scene and the arts here. I mean, Sarasota is known for being somewhat of a cultural center. Have you seen that grow as well?
Yes, I definitely have seen that grow. In regards to the professional companies that are here, first of all, my hat's off to Richard Hopkins and what he's doing with FST. It's just like it's a monster.
It is. And you have multiple stages.
I remember when it was just that one little building, right there on the corner. What used to be the what was it, the Garden Club or the Women's Club, Sarasota Women's Club. And so it has changed. It has grown, and so and then as well as the Oslo, with it growing, and Oslo has been around for years. Even when I was a little tyke, I remember seeing Oslo shows, but they have their educational programming is growing, their main stage programming is growing. The fact that they've partnered with with Florida State University and with their actor conservatory program, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
How would you compare the cultural scene here with Gainesville?
It doesn't even compare. Gainesville
Really?
doesn't even compare to what we have here. And I don't say that in, to talk bad about Gainesville, because that is where I was able to, really do my own come-uppings, rather. But Gainesville it's a different animal. It really is. It's a different animal, and I'm not going to say it's bad, but it's just different. It's different than what we have here in Sarasota. Gainesville does have its arts and culture, but it's not at the level of what we have here. In Gainesville, you have one professional company, which is the Hippodrome State Theater, which I've had the pleasure of working with over the years. And then we've got several different community theaters. And then you also have a theater program at the college, at Santa Fe College, and you have a theater and dance program at the University of Florida. So everyone tends to do their own little thing,
Right.
And unfortunately, you don't really get to see a lot of cross-pollination. They're slowly but surely coming into this awareness that the importance that they want to survive as arts organizations, a lot of cross-pollination is going to have to happen. So you're beginning to see that more and more in Gainesville. But I think that here in Sarasota, to me, I think that we understand the importance of supporting each other and cross-pollination.
Yeah, I had Nate Jacobs on recently, and he spoke lovingly, because he owes so much when he started West Coast Black Theater Troupe to that cross-pollination, to the support of the other organizations, because we're kind of all in this together, even though you may be competing.
Right.
But each of the theater organizations sort of has, here in Sarasota, I've noticed, has its own niche.
Yes. Yeah.
And so they are different. You can expect to see a certain type of show at Oslo versus FST versus Players. So I had Jeffrey Kinn on recently, a mutual friend of ours, and I asked him this question. Which do you prefer, acting or being an artistic director?
Oh.
I won't tell you what he said, but you might guess.
I might guess. At this stage in my life, artistic director.
Why is that?
Because I love all aspects of theater, and it's not just the stage. I mean, I've got my my introduction to theater was musical theater, and I loved it. I still love it. But then when I began to create my own theater, we were a black box theater, and we did not do very many musicals. Some a musical review here and there, that might be nice, but not a lot of musicals, because I was really interested in the stories of the human condition. And so that was one of the things that I really, really wanted to get across was, understanding, seeing how life was, that art definitely did reflect life, and for our audience to see that. And so, getting into acting in that sense of doing straight plays, as we call them, what we refer to as non-musicals, we call straight plays. I delved into that greatly as well too, and honed my acting skills. But at the same time, I was still producing and being responsible for the administrative side of things as well too.
That's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is a lot of work, and I guess, I guess I can jokingly say that I'm blessed and cursed to use both sides of my brain, right brain, left brain. So I've got the creative as well as the analytical side. And so, and I think that's, like it has groomed me for where I am now and what I'm doing now.
What are your goals for the Players Center?
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked. And I'm sure people will continue to ask me in various...
People are very curious. They love Players.
They love Players, and rightfully so, because Players is 93 years strong, and it has definitely it's created a space for itself in the community, and everyone knows that, and it's wonderful. And what I would like to see happen for the Players is that we not rest on our laurels, but find our own niche. Because you mentioned theaters finding their niches. I think that's what we need. That's where we are right now. We're at a point where we need to reinvent ourselves. We need to find our niche. We're changing. Life is changing.
It's very true.
It is.
It is.
And rapidly. And, since COVID, post-COVID, businesses have had to rethink the way they do business. Theater is a business.
It is a business.
We have to rethink the way we do theater. And so that means that we're going to, for the lack of a better phrase, using a political term, reach across the aisle.
Okay.
And do more work with our colleagues in the community, and not just with our colleagues, but if we're going to call ourselves a community theater, not only be there but we need to be there for the community, not just for the community to come to us to be entertained, but go to the community itself. And when I say go to the community, I mean going to other organizations that are not theatrical organizations and partnering with them and getting them to share their resources and their information, and so that we can support these various businesses that are in our community so that we all can benefit from it.
Would you ever see, under that scenario, would you ever see performing outside of the designated Players theater space?
That has been a thought in my mind.
Really?
Yes, it has. And it would definitely take some creative thinking and a lot of coordination. But it can be done, Pop-up theater is nothing new.
Right.
Pop-up theater is nothing new. Back in the day when you had, traveling troops, they would come up, do a show. One of the things that has really opened my eyes to that was when I had an opportunity to represent the United States. Myself and my company, Actors Warehouse, had an opportunity to represent the United States at the International Amateur Theater Festival in Monaco in 2017. And it happens every 4 years. This is an event that happens every 4 years, and you have an opportunity to see theater troupes from around the world come together and perform. And it's just absolutely wonderful. And you learn so much from that.
What did you learn? What did you take away?
One of the things that I took away was I was so in the mindset of how we do theater here in the United States. And we do it differently, quite differently than companies in other parts of the world. So with that said, our model is, okay, we want to put on a show. We've got our producers, we've got our directors, we've got all these wonderful people. We have a casting call. People come in, you audition, you get cast, you do the show, run, bye-bye, that's it, you're gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
now,
right.
With troops, other theater companies in other parts of the world, a typical thing is to have a troupe. These are individuals who come together and they say, okay, let's do some devised theater. Let's create our own. So it becomes a collaborative effort from everyone who's involved, all of the actors. And some of I tell you, Robert, some of the things that I saw at my trip in 2017 and again last summer, the summer in 2021 in Monaco, absolutely mind-blowing, of people coming together as a team, collaborating, and just saying, okay, we're going to put this together. Boom, here it is.
So it's not a top-down
and it's not
structure.
a structure. It is it is a group collaborative thing, and then they build it up, and then they would travel from village to this area to this city and that city, and just performing for the communities, for the different communities.
Do you think community theater should be like a mirror and reflect the community it's in?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, art itself does that. Of course, that's number one.
Right.
But number two, the community. Yes, community theater, absolutely.
And how so should they? Should it be in the faces that are on the stage, the content of the plays?
Yes.
Well, how should a theater be that mirror?
Yes, absolutely. Well, you basically just said it, really. And it is. It's about representation. Representation is everything. And my own personal story when it comes to representation, let me share with you very quickly. When I was a little boy at 6 years old, I was in school, and the Oslo, I had a touring production of Jack and the Beanstalk. Came to school. I looked and I saw it and I was like, oh, I like that. I want to do that. But it wasn't until I was about 12 years old that I actually had an opportunity to see someone on stage that I could identify with and say, I know I can do that now. When I was 12 years old, my mother started this tradition with me. She would take me to the Van Wezel for my birthday. My birthday's in January. And she would say, okay, anytime in the month of January, there's a show that you want to see, you go see. You let me know what you want to see and we'll go.
Oh, what a great gift.
That was a great gift. And one of those shows was a touring production of Eubie, which was a music review of Eubie Blake. Mm-hmm. I saw people who looked like me. And then I knew right then and there that I can do that.
You didn't think you could do it before?
No, I didn't. Because I didn't see, when I saw the Oslo, I didn't see faces like me. I knew it was something I wanted to do. I wished I could do. But I couldn't see myself doing it until I actually saw someone who looked like me do it. Now, one of the things was I could watch television. Now, right. We were excited when we saw a person of color on television back in the day. We were like, oh my goodness, there's a colored person on television. And everyone would rush into the room and see you like, oh my gosh, it's Diana Ross, or it was this person or that person, you know. We didn't see a lot of people of color on television when I was growing up. So to me, that was distant. I couldn't see myself being on television, but I knew that I could be on stage, but how? Yeah. That was the question.
Making the connection.
Making the connection.
You know, and I've heard this about other people of color in other professions, like the space program and being an astronaut.
Yes.
Or careers in science, or careers in business, and being able to say, wow, that's someone like me. I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to talk more about the Players Center for Performing Arts, and we're going to dig in a little bit more and find out some of Stephen's more personal interests and goals. We'll be right back. Thank you for watching and supporting Suncoast People. And if you like what we're doing, please make sure to follow and subscribe. If you're feeling generous, consider supporting Suncoast People through patreon.com/Suncoast People. We're back with my guest, Stephen H. Butler. And Stephen,
Robert.
what? Oh, Stephen. What's your proudest moment?
Oh, my proudest moment. Actually, I've had many proud moments.
Pick one.
Pick one. Well, as I mentioned earlier, being able to go to Monaco and represent the U.S. at an international amateur theater festival. which, by the way, was founded by Princess Grace before she passed away.
And she was a great actress.
Yes, she was.
She was a tremendous
Yes, she was.
actress.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So that was one of my proudest moments, is to be able to represent our country.
How were you received as an American?
You know what? So funny you should ask that, because that was one of my major concerns before I went there.
Okay.
Because Europeans, sometimes some Europeans can have a negative view about Americans. Mm-hmm. And so I was just kind of like, okay. And now remind you, this was in 2017. And in 2017, we just had gone into a new administration. And I think some of us here in the U.S. were concerned about, how this administration was moving forward, mm-hmm. and how we were perceived in other parts of the world, because people were beginning to respond, react.
Yeah.
We were hearing, comments from other countries, and so that was one of my questions. Was I going to be, accepted as an American? Just a typical American, and then on a political, level, was I going to be accepted? How was I going to be accepted? Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, people said to me, they found out it was from the United States, and they looked at me and they said, "What's up with Trump?" And all I could say was, "I'm sorry." And that was the end of the conversation. And we would move on.
Yeah, we try not to dive too much into politics
right.
on this show, but I think suffice it to say that those 4 years were certainly creating some major shifts in this country.
Yeah,
and not all of those shifts were with a friendly, engaging eye on our longtime allies.
Right.
And did make some of us feel a tad bit uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But we have moved on from there.
Yes.
And moved on as individuals and a nation. Coming back to Sarasota, mm-hmm. fill me in on, because this is coming here as an artistic director.
Yes.
When you've lived here before, you were an actor.
Yes.
And what other jobs did you have, or were you strictly an actor when you were living here before?
Well, no, I actually had other little jobs little jobs here and there. I'd started after I finished school at Sarasota High. I graduated from Sarasota. I started going to at the time it was Manatee College, mm-hmm. Which is now State College of Florida.
Okay.
And I wanted to study theater, but I got a lot of pushback from the family. So what I had to do was I had to be creative. I had to do my own private voice lessons, private singing, yes, private acting. Your
family wanted nothing?
They didn't want...
Did not want you to be in theater? What did they want you to do?
Anything but that.
Anything but that?
Yes.
You could have become a plumber and they would have...
Yes, but
not that there's anything... I love plumbers.
I do too.
And they make great money, and
yes, they
we
do.
need them.
And in my next lifetime, I probably will be a plumber. But for now, I'm still in the theater. But no, they were like, no. And I think really what it was that it was their mindset and from their generation. To them, theater was not stable.
Right.
How can you make a living at that?
Right. I get that.
Right. So, I have to think, both my parents grew up during the Depression. They were poor.
Right.
They were already poor, and then they grew up poor and during the Depression. So, but yeah, as far as the education was concerned, I taught myself. I made sure that I went to my acting classes, dance classes, vocal classes. And then I also learned it in school as well too. Yes, I continue to do it. So here's what's interesting though. During that time, I got hired as an understudy for a production of Ain't Misbehavin' that was at the Florida Studio Theater.
Oh, wow.
And while I was there, I got a phone call from the Hippodrome State Theater in Gainesville. They called the FST asking they needed a black male actor, singer, dancer, actor. And they recommended me. Well, when I got home to my mom's, Mom was like, she was excited. I think she was probably more excited than I was that the Hippodrome was calling me, wanting me to come and audition for them.
Where were your parents living at the time?
Here in Sarasota.
Oh, in Sarasota.
Yes,
okay.
here in Sarasota, right. And so my mom was excited. I think she was more excited than I was. And so, and I think that's when the light went on for her. That was like, oh, he can make a living at this. You can do, you can make something of this thing called theater.
Yeah.
And so went up to the Gainesville,
Right.
auditioned for the play, and wound up getting it. Next thing I know, I was there for 5 years doing various contracts with the Hippodrome.
Did you expect that at all, or you thought it was going to be a one-shot deal?
I thought it was just going to be a one-shot deal, but things were good. But when I wasn't on stage, what I did, I found myself doing temp work.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, that's what we used to do.
Sure.
So when you weren't on stage, you would always do that temp work. And I believe that doing temp work and then other little jobs here and there, other corporate jobs, so to speak, gave me the skill set for the business side of doing theater as well too. Mm. So I learned from that.
Yeah, somebody once said that the most lucrative job an actor in New York can have is waiting tables.
Yeah.
So the temp work, but
yeah.
so this other work that you were doing exposed you to the business side of theater, and you were able to cultivate that passion as well.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And so before I left Miami, I was working with an organization that was very thriving, and I was actually put into a director's position, which was wonderful. It wasn't theater; it was not a theater program. It was actually a church, and I was the director of their youth and family ministry program. And
do you have a background in ministry or in?
No, I don't. So this was
no theology background,
no theology background.
How did you make that transition?
Well, I was very active in my church.
Okay.
Yeah, I was very active in the church, and I went through a series of what we refer to as spiritual education and enrichment, and that was a series of educational program. It was an educational program, and just enriching one's spiritual life. And so as I continued to take these classes, I became more entrenched in the environment in our church and volunteering, and I was seen as a really good candidate to work with our children's program. And so I was handpicked, and next thing I know, it's like I thrived at that for a good 5-6 years before I left Miami.
It's an interesting path, and I love to talk to people about their life paths, because it's not linear. It's bouncing around from one thing to another.
It is.
And looking back at those particular chapters, you can call them places you've lived, or jobs, or relationships, or whatever it is, but if we were to call them chapters, that culminates into where you are today.
Yes.
Do you feel that everything you've done so far has prepared you for this?
Absolutely. It
How
really
so?
has. Because everything that I've experienced has been a learning experience. I need to be able to see that as a learning experience. Even when it wasn't what I would refer to as a positive experience for me, I still have learned from it.
Tell me something, perhaps a skill or a talent that people don't know about you.
I would say 2. Very resourceful.
Okay.
A lot of people don't realize that I'm very resourceful.
How so?
I can take a little, I don't know. I can take something that you were ready to throw away,
Yeah.
and I will find a way to make it something nice.
Repurpose it.
Repurpose it.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that I love to cook.
Okay.
Love to cook.
What's a specialty? If I were to come to your home and you would make what?
I would probably make you see here. Either something of Asian influence or Caribbean.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any familial roots, Caribbean roots by any chance, or you just love Caribbean food?
Not direct. Actually, on my father's side, I think we do have some family down in the Bahamas.
Okay.
But mostly my father's side of the family hails from the Carolinas, from
Okay.
South Carolina, and my mother's family, we're Floridians.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
fifth.
Well,
As a matter of fact, I'm fifth generation Floridian. I can trace my family tree all the way back to Jackson County, Florida.
wow.
Yeah, 1858. Wyatt Glover, one of my ancestors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How do I say this delicately? Did he come to Florida by choice?
No, he did not. He actually he was born in Alabama, because I've done genealogy research, and that's, I guess, something else I can share that people don't know a lot about me. I've been very fortunate to do genealogy research on both sides of my family, and I started that back in the 90s. So, and I've been able to find the slaves on both sides of my family, several of them. And the one particular ancestor that I'm mentioning on my mother's side, Wyatt Glover, was born in 1853. He was actually born in Alabama, and he came down to Florida in Jackson County, which is just right, stone throws away from the state line, he came, and more than likely he came with a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Glover,
Okay.
who was the only Glover in Jackson County, Florida, at the time during slavery, and Benjamin Glover fought in the Civil War on the Confederate side, but Benjamin Glover came from Alabama as well too, and more than likely he either acquired my ancestors in Alabama and brought him down here to Florida at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. that is rich. That is profound. I can't say that any of my ancestors who came here against their will. They were escaping from
Yeah.
situations. But
Yeah.
in any case, what's next for you?
In what context?
In your, I'll leave that open. What do you see as being next for you? You're back in Sarasota. You've taken this position. What's next?
What's next? Well, be here for family. My mother is in years,
Yeah.
so this allows me to be closer to her.
Good.
I am her only child.
Okay.
Yes.
That was going to be my next question
Yeah.
about siblings.
Siblings, yes. I am her only child. I do have a half sister.
Okay.
But she lives in Gainesville.
Okay.
And but
Do you keep in touch with her at
yes,
all?
yes, absolutely, I do. Because that's where my father is right now in Gainesville,
Ah.
and he's still alive. So my father is 95.
Wow.
I know, right?
He must have been very old when he had you.
I'm older than you think.
We're not going to go there.
Go ahead. Try. Come on.
I'm the one who asks questions here.
No,
but
no. This time you're in the hot seat. You go ahead, try.
42.
Bless your heart. On January 22nd of this year, I turned 58.
I've still got you beat by a few years.
Okay. But you look great.
I tell people I'm 85 because I look freaking awesome for
Yeah,
85.
you do.
So I'm sticking with that.
You're sticking with that. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not old enough to collect Medicare yet.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good.
I'm looking forward to that because, man, health insurance is
Isn't
expensive.
it? Tell me about it.
Holy cow.
Yeah, but getting back to what you were saying, being close to the family, that is something I'm definitely looking forward to. And then also being back here in Sarasota.
Yeah.
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 So I can I'm really ready to soak in the richness that is Sarasota, soak it all in, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm ready for it.
Do you ever see yourself retiring?
No, I don't.
You had to think about that one.
I've been asked that question several times now. No, I'm not. It's interesting because you know what? A lot of my colleagues and friends, they're at the point now that they're ready to retire. They're like, "Ooh, I'm getting ready to retire. A couple more years, da da da." And I'm like, not me.
Yeah. You'll always be doing something.
I'll always be doing something. I'm 58 and I'm starting a new chapter in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
No, I am not ready to retire. If they have to, if I have to die at my desk, so be it,
Wow. But don't you have a bucket list of places or things that you want to be doing?
No, I don't have a bucket. Well, I kind of have a bucket list. I still want to go see the pyramids. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just want to go to see the pyramids. But, one thing my mother has up on me, she's been able to go to Africa, and I haven't been there yet. Mm-hmm. So, but I have to do that. So, I definitely want to go to Africa. And there have been some opportunities, but I just haven't taken it. But the next time an opportunity arises, and I know of a group of folks that go to Africa just about maybe every year or every 2 years or so. I think I'm going to jump on that bandwagon.
It sounds like it would be a tremendous adventure.
Yeah.
Tremendous adventure. Stephen H. Butler. What does the H stand for?
Henry.
Henry.
Stephen Henry Butler.
I had an ancestor named Henry.
There you go.
Couple of on both sides, my family. It's a lovely name. Thank you so much for being here on Suncoast People.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. Would love to have you come back on sometime if we can carve out the time to do it, because I know with this new position you've got a lot of things in the fires, but would love to have you back on and do kind of a review and check in with you along the way.
I'd love that.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting Suncoast People. You can follow us, like us, and hopefully, perhaps support us through patreon.com/Suncoast People. Send us an email if you'd like to at info@suncoastpeople.com. But in the meantime, I'm Robert Tim, and thanks for watching.